You'll never imagine how a homeless woman changed her and her mother's fortunes forever by risking everything for an act of courage. But let's take a few steps back in the story. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel so as not to miss the future magnificent stories coming. Marcia was only 25 years old, and her life could not be said to be happy. After a difficult period and an argument with her mother, Alina had decided to leave home. She had lived homeless for years, trying to survive day after day. She had never met her father. He died when she was still a child, and her relationship with her mother had deteriorated due to various misunderstandings and pride. One day, Marcia learned that her mother had had a stroke, so she decided to put aside her pride and return to her. Alina welcomed her with tears in her eyes, happy to embrace her lost daughter again. "Mom, I came back to stay and take care of you," Marcia said, squeezing her hands. With little money from her disability pension, Marcia was desperate for a job, but without a higher education, opportunities were scarce. Eventually, she took a job as a cleaner at a local bank branch. On the first day of work, Marcia felt deeply embarrassed. She had the impression that everyone was laughing at her. When she arrived at the bank, she met the manager, Mark, a young and good-looking man who welcomed her with a warm smile. Marcia was also introduced to Margie, the arrogant secretary, who immediately warned her not to try to steal Mark from her. The work was hard and there was no shortage of humiliation. After a few days of work, she wondered if she had made the right choice. But each time she thought of her mother and her need to earn money for medical treatment. One day, Marcia overheard a suspicious conversation between some of Mark's colleagues who were planning to frame him and get him fired. She decided to warn him, hoping that this act of loyalty could improve her situation. The director was grateful, and shortly thereafter Marcia won his sympathy and esteem, so much so that Mark promoted her to assistant. Things didn't go as hoped. The weight of the new responsibilities was immediately felt. Every evening, she returned home exhausted, but her mother's smile was the only reward she needed. One day, Marcia was summoned by Mark and told that she had been accused of fraud, and for this reason, she had to be fired immediately. Marcia was shocked. She was falsely accused, and the most serious thing was that she found herself without a job and also with her reputation destroyed. But her life was one step away from a sudden change of direction. Meanwhile, she found an unexpected ally in Margie, who revealed that she had crucial information to prove Mark's guilt. She could also count on the help of an old friend, Amy, a successful lawyer. Together, they managed to gather the evidence necessary to defend themselves from the unjust accusations. "I can't believe you were set up like this," Amy said, squeezing her hands. "We will find a way to prove the truth." The evidence collected by Marcia, Amy, and Margie led to a trial. That day, the judge, with an impassive face, began to read the testimonies and examine the evidence. If you're enjoying the story, like this video and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. 1,000 thanks. After carefully examining all the evidence, the judge began, the court concludes that the accused, Marcia Simmons, is innocent. Furthermore, he continued, as requested by the management of the bank, Mark Coleman is removed from his position due to his proven guilt. The world seemed to stop for an instant, and Marcia, in that moment, could only hear Amy's words. "It's done, Marcia. You won." Thus, Marcia was reinstated in the company. With her mother finally in treatment and a job, Marcia felt that the happiness she longed for was within reach. After a few months, she was noticed by the general manager, and in a short time, she was promoted to branch manager. Marcia found herself having to manage a team that initially didn't respect her. "Do you really think you can lead us?" a senior employee said one day, shaking his head. During her first weeks as director, she worked hard, demonstrating her skills and commitment. Little by little, colleagues began to recognize her dedication and respect it. Margie, initially her enemy, became one of her most trusted allies. "I never thought we would get to this point," Margie confessed one day with a smile. "Life is really unpredictable," Marcia replied, smiling back. Meanwhile, the situation with Mark was not completely resolved. One day, in her office, she found an anonymous letter on her desk. She opened the envelope and read, "Don't think this is the end. I'll be back." The threat left her paralyzed for a few moments. She decided not to tell anyone right away, but fear had crept into her heart. Days passed in which Marcia felt she was being watched. One evening, as she was walking home, she heard some footsteps behind her. She sped up, but the footsteps behind her did the same. She whirled around and saw a shadow vanish around the corner. "I can't live like this," she thought. She then decided to talk about it with her dear friend. "I received a threat," she confessed, showing her the letter. Amy didn't hesitate. "You're not alone, Marcia. We'll face it together. In the meantime, let's alert the police." And so they did. The women reported these facts to the police, who said to go back to them if something else happened. A few weeks later, while Marcia was at work, she received an unexpected phone call. "Good morning. I am the director of the head office. I would like to meet you to discuss your management of the branch. Can you come to the office now?" Marcia felt a lump in her throat. "Of course, I'm at your disposal," she replied, with a mix of emotion, curiosity, and fear. "Her dedication and commitment have brought extraordinary results," the director said at that meeting. "We would like to offer you an even higher position within our organization." Marcia couldn't believe what was happening. "I gratefully accept. What is it specifically?" she said, trying to hold back tears of joy. In the years to come, Marcia served as regional director, successfully managing the organization of people from the various branches. As for Mark, Marcia never saw him again. She heard that he had moved abroad for various reasons, one of which was that he couldn't find a job due to his reputation. Marcia faced her past, overcame humiliations, and risked everything to go from homeless to bank manager. Do you also believe that such extraordinary rebirths of life are possible?